Hello, Matt. How's it going today?
Well, same as usual, I guess. I
Yeah,
don't.
so
I
awesome as heck.
There was a period I would say yes. This is not quite one of those periods, but I'll hang in there.
that's uh that's not good.
No,
What
I'm
what
just
sucks
busy.
it what
It's
sucks is
not.
it
Yeah.
I want to be able to get you to vent and just have like a whole session on that, but I feel like you're so riddled with NDAs you don't want to risk that territory.
It's not even just like I mean, there's a lot of things just happening. Kind of like you ever get to one of those points in your life? I feel like you're always on the same point as me, actually, where it's like, what's next? What like are we gonna like where are we gonna live in a year? And what's like the 5 year outlook look
Yeah.
like? And you just kind of think about it, and it freaks you out, and you don't know if you should be making changes now or then. And it's like, ugh. And
Yeah.
it's weird because, and again, I know you have had this same experience, but like, having kids is kind of a forcing function, and then you have a family, and the desires of family is a forcing function. Like when I was single,
Mhm.
it was like, I should just move to this other place. I don't like what I'm doing. I'm gonna go do this other job, or is this the right thing to take at school? Maybe I'll take a year off. And now it's always like, well, all these considerations kind of really bolt you to the ground. It's just, yeah, I don't know, wine. Everyone
Yeah, man.
has their things.
I've been kind of going stir crazy for like a couple years now.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite
It's
call myself stir crazy, but I'm something. I'm something.
I mean, now I feel like I need to look up the definition of stir crazy to make sure I didn't call
Invent.
it some sort of condition that I don't actually have. Apparently stir crazy was a 1980s movie, so I can't actually.
It can't be too offensive. Although,
Yeah,
I mean, it is the 80s. It's,
yeah. It was it's got Gene Wilder in it, so it must have been good. Richard Pryor,
maybe it is offensive. I don't know. I mean, just
probably.
just not a stretch, probably.
Yeah, it's been weird for me the past couple of years, just because like I have moved around so consistently that it feels wrong to stay put in some ways.
Wrong. I mean, I know you're all about different places. I'm less about that per se, even though I move constantly. I often move like around. There'll be like a city center, and I'll move to like 10 different places, kind of in that periphery, before switching to another city,
Yeah,
just out of circumstances.
I've only moved once within the same city, and it was literally a block away.
Yeah. I don't know if we've done quite a short distance move. I feel like I did that in Vancouver a few times. Yeah, I'm just all about like I guess switching up like I don't know everything. I get bored easily. That's it. Maybe I just want to go try do different things. And
I don't.
it's another weird thing because I'm sorry. Just like I'm
Yep.
like like if you just kind of sample something and move on, you never really get good at that, or you never really like it. It's not. It doesn't get to the point where it becomes a hobby, and so I'm always kind of balancing this weird tendency I have to get really bored and want to just try other things
Hmm.
with this desire to like get good at things. And so like
Yeah.
it's the classic like go deep on one or two axes, or go wide and shallow. It's not
Well,
really
I mean
just about
that's.
being good at things. It's also just yeah, I don't know, just
I
a
mean,
desire to fully. Go ahead. I'm just talking over you.
I was gonna say like I feel like in a way that's how I feel about moving. Like I would rather live somewhere for a year than vacation there for a week.
Yep, I hear that. I hear
So I
that.
mean, I'm kind of like uh, antsy right now because I feel like I can't do vacations either.
Everything sucks. Everything sucks. Yeah, I
uh,
mean, kids starting school is especially rough. I think. I don't know
that's
what you're like. Maybe you guys are happier to pull to be flexible there. Like with two kids,
no.
it's kind of like
I mean that's kind of what's weird for me too. Is that like I've considered moving around, and like I think you just said a few minutes ago, like a few minutes ago in a 5 minute podcast. Uh, a few sentences ago, I think you said something about how if you were still single, you'd be doing stuff differently. And I don't know. I guess that's part of what makes me feel locked down too. Is it like once you're a family unit and two people have to be employed, and one person has to go to school, it changes that whole dynamic. Like it would be nice to just pack up and go somewhere else, but like I feel like for me being in Montreal, my kid's got a pretty good situation where he's learning to be bilingual. in the school that he's going to, and
Hmm.
I don't know. We learned French, you and I, when we were in school, but as your snicker indicates, the word "learn" is used very loosely there.
When I was, or when we were youngsters, I felt like French was like it was cool to be bad at French, right? Like it was the
Yeah,
cool to screw around in class, right? Like
yeah,
if you screw around in math, maybe that's cool too, but you're probably screwing your future. There's like a little bit of a like okay, but like French, you could screw around with, screw around in. It was cool to screw around in, and in the end, eh, whatever, just move
yeah.
on.
It that was like the group mentality that I had. Like I feel like um we may have had like a class with a teacher that we all disliked, and we would not take that teacher's class seriously. But it seemed like from year to year, French was, regardless of the teacher or the class, it was kind of like communally not taken seriously where we grew up.
Yeah. When did you stop taking French?
Um, in school, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think in high school we suddenly had the choice, and
Yeah,
I got out right away.
yeah. I think I took it in grade 10. I don't remember if it was still mandatory at that point, but grade
No,
11 and 12, I didn't take it.
because I didn't take it in 10, so I know it wasn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
I at
And
one
then
point just
the
go
reason
ahead.
I was a little confused when you asked is because I've taken classes this summer.
Oh, okay.
So so I mean I
You
stopped
never
for
stopped
like,
taking.
well, I stopped for like 15 years or however long it was, but now I'm living in Montreal and it kind of feels relevant again.
I don't know if you remember or if we talked even at the time, but I at one point was it was kind of when I was in Vancouver and just desperate to like figure my life out in Vancouver. You know, it's pricey and the
Hmm.
economy is fairly your salaries don't really keep up with living expenses. And so I, at one point, was thinking of moving to Montreal.
Mm.
And so I was doing these just like almost like Pimsleur type things,
Hmm.
French lessons. They were from the
Yeah.
U.S. military. It was really weird. Like all the examples were always like, tell your colonel that you need more ammunition, or like, today
You know,
it's
the
time to go
relevant
back.
stuff.
Yeah, it's time to go back to the barracks. And so I know these like weird French words. Anyway, I feel like I learned more because I was training for the sun run at the time. So I go running and listening to these French lessons. I learned more French then than I ever learned screwing around in school. Like all the French
It's
I know right now is from that little period of my life.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's weird about high school and junior high and stuff is like you're forced to take all these classes that you have no interest in, and they are really obliged to go at the pace of whoever the slowest students are.
Yeah, yeah.
So the, I don't know. There's a gradual learning process that happens through school, but uh, I think it's more about learning how to learn than learning anything in specific.
I got that sense more in university actually, where it was like, let's
Maybe,
teach them how to learn,
yeah.
and then let's like peace out. And so like it kind of, I mean, it becomes a habit to like, I mean, I remember at times I was so busy that like I'd be skipping classes to do homework for other classes, like
Hmm.
literally like just till like 2 a.m. every day, like just crazy, crazy, crazy,
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
workloads. And you suddenly had to choose what you're going to do. You can't do it all. And like
Yeah.
that being forced into that pressure cooker environment taught
Hmm.
you to kind of figure that out. And like I think the teachers, like I talked to teachers who literally said, yeah, we know it's like that. Like that's
Mm.
intentional. And like there's teachers who would almost not even, like the only point to go to the class for me, because I'm not really a classroom type person, was to have them tell me what I need to go and learn. And I would go learn
Hmm.
it on my own. Effectively, it was my whole university experience. In high school, it was like it's not like I'm Captain Genius, but I think I was smart enough that like I just kind of got stuff. Like I never really studied for math, right? Of course,
Yeah.
I memorized dates for history class and whatever foolishness, but universities when it was like, whoa, I need to figure this out.
Yeah, yeah. I did homework as rarely as I could in high school. I would learn the teachers that didn't bother to check the homework, and so then I wouldn't do the homework. Um,
I don't
in
even
in
remember actually. I
in
probably just
in
did it. I don't know.
For me in college, everything was project based.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have tests in our figure drawing class. Actually, that's incorrect. That's one of the few ones that we did actually have tests in. Because
You
we
had
we had to,
tests.
yeah, we had to be able to draw all the bones and all the muscles from memory and know their names. So
Yeah, yeah.
figure
Makes sense.
drawing was actually the one class that we had tests in. Um, but yeah, we in layout class or storyboarding or whatever, I didn't have tests in those. Everything was project based. So it would inevitably result in like 5 different projects all being due on the same week.
Yep,
And
I've been there. I feel like in engineering, it kind of progresses to that. Like in the
yeah,
earlier times, it's just all math, physics, and it's all like
yeah,
test. And then eventually, once you have enough of that, you can actually do projects. And so then,
yeah.
kind of like closer to the end of your schooling, you get more project based stuff, presentations, and all that.
It was. I remember it being frustrating because it's like we had like character design and storyboarding and animation and stuff, but like I feel like it was rare that any of the projects had anything to do with each other. And it's like if you were doing like a short film or something, you could kind of like make all of the projects be like a part of a greater whole.
Yeah, yeah, I
But
see.
but it was just kind of a mess where we just had like completely different things we were doing, and it was like it was definitely difficult to focus on anything in particular. And then for me personally, I wanted to do visual effects, which wasn't part of the curriculum. So I was like doing all the stuff that had to be done, and then trying to teach myself something else on the side.
Wow. Yeah, sounds busy.
Yeah,
I remember that. Um, so in electronics engineering, or at least my school's approach, they just went really kind of like broad. I mean, it's such
yeah,
an enormous field in so many different ways, and you can go and specialize. And basically, the going knowledge at the time was if you wanted to like, I mean, yeah, of course, I guess, but like most companies were hiring people with masters because they wanted people
hmm,
who specialized in stuff. And so the whole curriculum was this massive, very busy thing where you came out with like just general knowledge. And if you wanted to jump into any particular pillar of that, you need a master's where you would go and learn like electronic materials or like whatever, some specific circuit design or whatever.
mm,
And I don't know, I feel like so like that's like I graduated and basically just went right into like software stuff and skipped the whole thing. But a lot of my friends who went more focused on like just pure like engineering stuff, I think partially struggled for that reason. Like they people don't want to hire these generalists, and that's what they had, right? So
mm.
yeah, it was weird.
I've got like no concept of what engineering is, man. Like I yeah, I've got I can't even come up with an example of what I do know. Like what sort of a project would you have done in college?
So like I remember my well actually I kind of don't remember too many details, but my year-end project was so like they would present all these like societal issues that are
Hmm.
going on at the time. And at the time, a big one was like wind energy. And so my final project was around wind energy. And it was like circuit design for a like wind energy unit or something, like kind of like just a giant windmill, I guess. And so we had to design like the alternator stuff inside that would convert the wind energy into electricity, into electrical power, right? And so like the project is, you know, they give all these details and whatever, but ultimately it kind of boils down to like a model you need to build that will say like, here's this area that we're building these windmills. Here's all this wind. There's this much wind per hour or whatever across the average of a year. In the day, it's about this high. At the night, it's about this low, whatever. We want to get X amount of power out. Design
Hmm.
this, and so you'd have to pick where they go. You'd have to pick like the height and like blah 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 blah, and then you'd have to like maybe sometimes we'd work across disciplines. So we'd work with like mechanical engineers to figure out like maybe like those parts, like more of the physical like arrangement or whatever, how to maximize the energy transfer. And then like the electronics bit would usually just be like more kind of like circuit design, and you design like filters so that the amount of energy transfer is optimal, like you don't have losses there and whatever. Or like I had another class on like RF circuit design, and it's the
Hmm.
weirdest, man. The things, I mean, physics is crazy, of course. Like if you go and study like astrophysics or something, but like
Hmm.
at a microscopic level where you're looking at like electrons traveling across a medium, it gets really crazy because there's all these like things you wouldn't necessarily think you have to consider. So like in microcircuits, when electricity flows, it creates magnetism. Like there's magnetic fields that get generated, and so if all the wires are too close to each other, the magnetic field affects them, which is generally bad. But then you have to design for that, and so like we would always design these circuits that would like whatever, right? Like the simple one is like an amplifier that takes maybe some sort of analog input, so it's like sound or something, right?
Hmm.
Through a speaker, and you would build a unit that converts that into digital, and then you would program a microchip to process the digital stuff in some way. It's like designing a guitar pedal or something, right? You'd like
Hmm.
add distortion or you just amplify it or something. And then the other end, you would need to design something to output, like to convert it back into analog and then to amplify it. And so there's all these staged things. Like it's just stuff like that. Just think of like any system, like any object you buy, like a television. And then
Yeah.
breaking it down into all its parts. Like obviously it has a power supply, it has a display, it has all these things inside, it has the software that powers it, whatever. And then you have to design all the parts, at least at a high level. I find like having graduated, I don't know, of course those jobs exist. But like the amount of software jobs just dwarfs the amount of
Yeah.
hardware
Yeah. Yeah.
jobs. And like a lot of stuff that used to be hardware is now software. Like if you look at the original Nintendo, it's all like circuits inside and
Mhm.
stuff. Like if you look at modern,
Versus
like
emulation, or
not even emulate. Well, yeah, emulation definitely, but like even like if you bought like a one of those like whatever, what are they called, retro whatever. Like it's just like someone remade the NES recently or
right.
some pirate system. It's literally just like a system on a chip, and someone just programmed everything. Like it's all
Hmm.
like FPGA and stuff. Like you don't need all this like complicated weird like analog circuitry and stuff that they used to have. So
Hmm.
it really, yeah, there's like a lot more software jobs. It's weird. I don't even know what like electronics engineering looks like now at school. There's probably an entirely different focus on what's important because it's such a changing industry, right?
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how, if anything's changed in the animation education. Well, because
Yeah,
like when I went,
software focus, digital focus, maybe.
well, I mean, probably like there was, I don't know. I guess I'd describe them as Luddites. There's some of the teachers that were teaching me at the time. Like I went for hand drawn animation,
Mm-hmm.
and the program that I was in changed the year that I was enrolled from a 3-year diploma in 2D animation to a 4-year degree that also included 3D animation.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like this strong resistance from some of the teachers where they felt like you can't possibly learn how to animate on a computer because it's
Mm-hmm.
you're just pushing buttons. uh and there was like this real resistance where they wanted us to be doing everything on paper, which to me feels crazy because I understand it to a certain degree because like when you're learning to draw with the pencil and eraser, you got to get it right, and if you don't get it right, you have to basically just erase your drawing and do a new drawing.
Mm-hmm.
uh and so like there's this real like draftsmanship skill that gets built, and you start to learn how things work so that you don't have to redo things.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're learning on a computer, like I believe there's the same principle with engineering as there is in games, the fail fast.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there's this
Yep.
whole idea of like you just do it, and if it doesn't work, you can fix it and do it again or do revisions or whatever. And like you can't fail fast with hand drawn animation. So it's like that's totally what I was doing with that's the way I see with computers, is that like you can do revisions and change them and not just have to start from scratch each time. So I think some of those teachers have changed their mindset a little bit, and they're now letting the students do 3D and even stop motion and other mediums, and they get to use programs like Toon Boom instead of having to do everything on paper. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. You're probably completely right. It's like just this holding on to old ideas. I mean, there's something almost like I don't know, like sentimental about like waxing on about amazing like draftsmanship and all these people going through like the harder version of it to be able to produce the product, and like expecting the new generation to go through that too because that's going to like harden them better or whatever.
mm,
Um, I had a like there's just this book of like drawings by this guy I like, and I was reading the intro, and it's all like charcoal stuff, like really analog stuff. And the intro to the book, he's going over his like experiences or whatever, and he was talking about how he used to do everything in digital, and he decided he'd try some analog stuff just for fun. And I forget what he said. Like the his teacher could tell right away he was a digital artist because he was less concerned with making mistakes, and he was so embarrassed about it or something. And I read it and I was like, what? That seems like a weird thing to be embarrassed about, and it's just like what you're saying, like fail fast, right? Just try it. Okay, it didn't work. Try again. Like it's definitely a different. It's very interesting because obviously, if you're building something analog, the amount of pre-work you need to like make sure it's not going to be a failed product in the end, or you're going to have to redo everything, is like it's just a different thing, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's I mean it's interesting because like I haven't really done any stuff with engineering. Like I remember in grade 2, maybe
Grade
I learned
two.
a yeah, like I think it was in my grade 2. No, it was my grade 3 science class. We had a great science teacher, and we did do a little bit of stuff with circuits. And I didn't do anything like that again until like physics class in high school.
Yeah.
Um, and so now it's like this situation where my kid is 6 years old right now, and we unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know how to look at it, but we kept him home from kindergarten because he wasn't obligated to do that, and there was a pandemic, and we just decided let's keep him safe. But that meant that he ended up spending a lot of last year on YouTube and playing video games. So to try to kind of compensate for that, like I started trying to get um, there's these oh, what are they called?
Oh, I think I know what
The
you're gonna
Tinker
say.
Crates.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like he started getting into the YouTube channel Smarter Every Day, and Mark Rober has a channel where he's a NASA scientist at one point.
Mm.
And so like I think it was Mark Rober is the one that was advertising the Tinker Crate, and so we get a subscription to that now, and those arrives, and he really loves building those things.
Yeah, cool.
And we also got him snap circuits.
Okay, yeah.
Um, and it's funny because like he's built like a little remote control vehicle with snap circuits, and he's built a little light, uh, an alarm basically that plays music if there's light shining on it and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I think
And
we have the same thing. I don't know if it's exactly identical, but like a very
probably
similar set. Yeah, yeah.
probably, but
Yeah.
it's like I don't know much of what's happening. I know enough that I can explain to him the principles of what's going on, but I feel like I'm learning almost as much as he is when we look at these things.
Well, it's almost like even just my daughter just going to normal like kindergarten and then grade one. Like she's always coming
Hmm.
home and talking about animal facts. Like
Hmm.
it's not really like job applicable, and I'm not like learning physics or some new thing, but like it's just interesting because there's definitely tons of stuff she knows more about already than I know.
Mm.
And it's just like I don't know. She really likes like ocean animals, so she's always talking about like the lifespan of a shark, or like what this other thing eats, or like
Mm.
what the underwater ecosystem, like what the ecosystem is of an underwater volcano, and all this stuff that obviously she just learned in school, and she's coming home and talking about it. But still,
Yeah.
it's like I'm like cool. I don't even need to really watch like documentaries or anything because I just kind of get it secondhand from my 6-year-old. But
I
it's neat to hear
I
that.
I love that. Yeah, that he comes back with that same sort of stuff, and I'll immediately follow it up after he tells me something like let's look up more on that, and we'll watch like a short video on YouTube or something where
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
someone explains it. It's a it's an interesting world. I your kid, are they taking English in school now, or
Yeah. Well, kindergarten is entirely, or sorry, elementary school is entirely English,
okay?
and our daughter is. I mean, like she has some good friends, so I think she's quite motivated to like try and work on English, and so that's coming along very, very, very well. I think she's basically bilingual now, like totally just very natural in both languages.
Right.
Son is we have him in a he's in a there's an English preschool and a Japanese one, and he hates the English one, of course, which is kind of how it always starts, I guess. But I don't know. He seems receptive. Like he yeah he'll get there. I'm pretty confident it's going to go
Yeah.
okay. Like he doesn't hate I say he hates it. He's not like crying, screaming, hate it. He's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
just kind
Yeah.
of like, do I have to go? Ugh. And then we kind of give him the talk, and he's like, all right, all right. So yeah,
I'm I'm
it's interesting.
I'm trying to muster language enthusiasm because it's like, I
French
mean,
stuff might be
yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard to kick feelings that you've had about a
yeah
language since you were a kid, right?
yeah yeah yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I found it funny because when we started up in Montreal, like we didn't speak any French at
Yeah.
home ever. So we sent him to preschool, and he had no choice but to pick up some of it there. And after like a year, I think in preschool, he
Mm.
was already speaking about as much French as I could.
Ever in your life, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that was the one thing that I was kind of worried about last year keeping him home, was just that he was losing that
Mm.
access to French. But so he's back now, and I I'm one of those people that is like morally against homework.
Okay.
Like I feel like it the idea of getting kids to do homework in school just reinforces the lack of work life balance that everyone's kind of encouraged to have as an adult. Like,
Ooh, that I could talk about for a while. Yeah. You'd love our school district. I mean, they give little, yeah. I'm guessing. Does your son have homework
Yeah, and
in grade
so
one?
he,
Wow.
yeah, he gets homework in French. I don't think he ever gets homework in English. Um, but
Hmm.
he brings home homework every Friday for French class, and I'm like both angry that they're giving him homework
On a
and
Friday, no less.
and and angry that my kid loves doing his homework.
Hmm.
And mildly, um I don't know what sort of adjective to use, but I guess mildly okay with the fact that I have to do the French homework too, and so I'm slowly learning a little bit more.
Yeah, I think there could be a worse. There could be a combination of things that would lead to a much worse outcome here. Like he
Yeah,
hate, yeah, yeah, or it's more homework. Um, yeah, it's kind of, yeah. I'm kind of helping my daughter with math homework, and
yeah,
I'm obviously not like learning because it's it's elementary
yeah,
math,
yeah,
and it's okay. But it's another. I mean, you're talking about work life balance. Yeah, it's a real reality that homework for the kid is homework for the parent, especially in
yeah,
those early years. Is something I'm finding out really fast.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was going back to the idea of moving around and stuff. That was something that has come up in the idea of trying to move around because it's like he's out of school right now where he's learning the two languages of Canada. So he's probably going to fare well in no matter where we move around in Canada.
Hmm.
But that wouldn't necessarily be the case anywhere else, right? Like I think I mentioned a couple podcasts ago that I had considered early on in the pandemic moving to another country, and that country
Hmm.
would have been Denmark. Um, and that I was very curious about that because their education system is very different from ours, but also
Hmm.
it wouldn't. It starts to become a challenge. I guess like it's one thing as an adult to move around, but as a kid, it's like you have to be able to pass tests each year in school, and like if you're not up to date with the same curriculum as everyone
Yep.
else,
Yep. And even
like not just language, but like history
yeah,
classes and stuff.
yeah, yep, totally. And of course, knowledge builds on knowledge. So like
Yeah,
a curriculum that's I guess reasonably structured wouldn't just be all new things that you would just pop into. The language thing is a tough one too because
yeah,
I mean, yeah, we all know kids learn languages easily and whatever, but like they also forget them easy, as far as
hmm,
I can tell from talking to a lot of people.
yeah,
Like, I mean, I'm talking
yeah.
to like, yeah, adults who grew up in like Korea until they were
Hmm.
6, and now they barely speak Korean. They have like, they describe it as like grade 1 Korean with their parents. Or like, I have a Russian friend who says the same thing. And I mean, that's 6 years of learning a
Hmm.
language. And so, like, if you, it'd be neat to like if I get an awesome opportunity in Italy and then I enroll my kids in Italian school for 3 or 4 years, I don't have confidence that I'm going to move back here or to Canada or to somewhere and like they're just going to speak Italian their whole life. Like I think they'd forget it. And
Yeah,
it's like structuring around having your kids' life be as what's the
convenient,
word, convenient, or like giving them
fluid.
the right learnings.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's hard on the parent, I guess,
yeah,
that has other desires. Yeah.
yeah. I imagine you've considered it at one point too, but another country that I had considered recently was Japan. Um, and the idea of that is like, do you send your kid to the school where it's like there's this notorious cram culture of like do homework nonstop, or do you pay $40,000 for them to go to like the international school?
Try having 2 kids.
Yeah, but that's largely it too, right? It's like not just like it's like if you're going to stay in the country forever, then obviously you want to integrate them into the local school system. But if you're planning on a return back to Canada, like you got to make sure that they're learning all the same stuff that they're learning in Canadian schools, right?
Yeah, and like I don't know, there's other, as far as I've heard, like problems around like accreditation and like the
Hmm.
school years start at different times. I feel like,
Yeah,
yeah, especially like imagine again with multiple kids trying to
yeah,
balance that or figure that out. Like all that stuff is going to be, yeah, really tough.
yeah.
Yeah, really really tough. I don't even have a solution because I don't think there is one. Right?
No, there isn't. It's like you have to just decide which of the two systems are you going to integrate into, and
Yeah, I always feel like we talked about this before, and this seemed like less a concern for you I'm not sure how you feel actually, but like the other thing too, like I don't know, I grew up in one
socially.
place. What socially? Well, I'm just gonna say I grew up in one place, and like
Hmm.
my only experience of life is like going through the whole. Like I was in Nova Scotia until I was 19, so I
Hmm.
grew up with all the same people. And like, of course, people moved once, maybe even twice. So like, some people moved into our area in grade
Hmm.
4 or whatever. But like, I I don't know. I just hesitate to like move my kid around everywhere just because like, especially now, like she has a really good friend that's
Hmm.
exactly the same age as her, born the same month, and they've known each other since they were little babies.
Yeah.
And it's like if I was just to move to a new city every 3 years, like she loses that.
Yeah.
And it's like people make new friends and whatever. But I think like I don't know, like it's definitely a consideration, right?
It's definitely something that affected me because I did move around a little
Mhm,
bit.
mhm,
Like my parents moved the first time when I was 4,
mhm.
which is probably young enough that
Yeah.
it's not an impact, but it's like you go to a place and you know literally no one,
Mhm, mhm.
and then you start your kindergarten or whatever, and you make some friends, and then I moved again when I was in grade 5, and I did find that quite hard.
I would say
Um,
like yeah, grade 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like that would be a hard move. Even like I had a friend who was like me, he just lived in the same area, but he kind of came from a wealthy family, I guess, or something, and they decided for high school to send him to some special private high school.
mhm.
And so like all his friends he grew up with all through the system, they're always in the same classes. They always hung out after school, whatever. And then just him, boom, high school, boom,
Yeah.
3 years. I think at the time maybe it was 4. Different
Mhm.
school, different area. Doesn't hang out with those people. Doesn't see them. Doesn't get to
Yeah.
have those experiences. Like I guess it's better for his education, but and he lived in the same house even like so to
Yeah.
move around. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't like deeply researched the effects on kids, but um,
I mean,
definitely a hard one.
everyone is an individual, right? Like they're all gonna react differently. Like I
Yeah,
feel like there's enough stories of like Mark Hamill or Sebastian Bach or whoever Sebastian Bach being the modern musician, not Johann Sebastian Bach. But like
but Mark
there's lot,
Hamill being Mark Hamill.
yeah, yeah. I well, the guy that played the Joker.
Yes.
Um, uh, like there's lots of these people that did move around, and I feel like they developed they enjoyed it and developed like these extrovert personalities where they were able to start expanding out and meeting other people easily and stuff. um I was always more of an introvert. I found it difficult in grade
Introvert
5.
is hard because you build relationships with people, and
Yeah.
it's a small group you build those relationships with, and they're so
Yeah.
important. And when they're yanked away, it's like, oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like um I didn't really for a couple years after I moved in grade 5, I stayed good friends with some of the people that I knew in my earlier grades. I'm distracted because I can feel my phone vibrating here somewhere, but I don't even know what pocket it's in. Um, Hang on.
You did.
No, it's spam, so I gotta just hang up. I get a lot of spam calls these days.
Yeah, I
Uh,
always get your social security number has been
yeah,
compromised,
yeah,
and
yeah,
there's a warrant out for your arrest. I've
yeah,
gotten that
yeah,
call so many times.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe they think if they call me enough, I'll think it's real, right?
yeah. Um, what it was tough in grade 6 because I was suddenly the new kid in class,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much everyone picks on the new kid for some
Mm-hmm.
reason. Um, and I guess I was kind of saved because about halfway through the year, another new kid showed up, and suddenly everyone diverted their attention to him, and suddenly I wasn't the new kid anymore.
Man, this youth culture is such a miserable
Yeah,
thing.
I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I guess it's different. Like when you go to college, everyone's new, right? And even that's
yeah,
challenging as an introvert. But still, it's like it's not like you're hopping into this room where everyone knows each other, right?
yeah,
That's rough. Yeah.
and that's the thing is I noticed even like grade 6 was elementary school, but grade 7 was junior high, and so
Hmm.
suddenly everyone was kind of then that same boat, and I feel like I was completely fine in both junior high and high school, and like most of the friends that I made in junior high I wasn't friends with in elementary, and most of the friends I made in high school I wasn't friends with in junior high. um,
Yeah, it's. I feel the same way, and it's really weird for me because I feel like the same thing. Like everyone's kind of in this new environment, and so it's like this fresh start. And
yeah.
that's part of why I had like a really good time in high school. Like I loved high school,
Hmm.
and I hated junior high, and it was just like there's just that many more people. There's less like the closed mindedness is still
Yeah.
there, of course, but like it's a little relieved, I guess. and yet like somehow I found myself hanging out with all the people that were actually all in the same classes with me all the way through elementary. It's
Hmm.
almost like we kind of knew each other, but like yeah, now we really know each other or something. It was just weird how that worked out. So I don't know. You went to Bible Hill Junior High, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember.
and I don't think you and I hung out at all
I think I
when
knew
we
who
were
you
there, right?
were.
Well, I
You were
mean,
the guy
everyone knew
with the
who I
guitar.
was. No, I didn't have a, I didn't have a guitar in junior high.
Oh, really? Well, maybe I didn't know. My
Yeah.
earliest memory is you with guitar stuff. So,
Um. Yeah, I think we probably casually knew who we were, who each other were, because we had mutual friends.
probably,
But
yeah,
I don't think you and I would have hung out until in high school when
yeah,
both were going to art club together.
yeah. Oh man, were you in any of those movies we made in high school? Was that a thing? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, you were
I
in the
was in a
lightsaber
lightsaber movie. Yeah,
movie. Oh man, ridiculous.
which kicked off because I don't remember who was better at Doctor Mario than the other person, but it was
Somebody.
the whole
Was it?
lightsaber
I thought it.
battle.
Yeah, I thought it was a Star Fox or something.
I'm pretty sure it was Doctor Mario
All right, well, just as well. Just
in
as
your
well.
basement.
Good times, good times, good
Yeah.
times. Speaking of, I don't know, learning things or not learning anything. I don't know which exactly is the better analogy.
But yeah, so I mean, I kind of feel like that same sort of feeling that I got from going into junior high and suddenly being with a whole bunch of new people and making new friendships, and then the same thing in high school. Like, to me, that's largely what moving around is like.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I mean, in my industry, it's very common for people to be moving around. So I feel like there's constantly these groups of expats who form this little
Moving
network.
trope.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like that the experiences I had, like when I graduated and I stayed in Toronto and I went from like one company to another company in Toronto, it's like I still had my friend network and nothing seemed new or exciting. I didn't really make
Mm.
friends with my new colleagues at the new company very well. And then when I moved to a new country, suddenly like all of the expats were just like we were good friends. And then I moved to another place, and it was kind of the same way. And I felt like, I don't know. I feel like to an extent, wanting to move is wanting to recapture that aspect of it.
Ah, interesting, 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 interesting. It's weird for me because I mean, of course, I like the people I work with. Everyone's fine, but I feel like kind of the type of people I like gravitate to are like not really like not. I don't have a ton of friends in the tech industry, I guess
Hmm.
specifically, which I find when you talk to people in the tech industry, they all of their friends are in the tech industry. Like they hang out with each other, and I'm hanging out
Mm.
with more like artsy people or like whatever, just like other people a little bit.
Hmm.
And so it's always actually kind of really stressful for me. Like even when I came to the U.S. at first,
Hmm.
like how do you meet friends as a 30
Yeah,
something and you're working and you have kids? Like you're not
yeah. The
the only
having
people you
kids is
meet
the
are at
hard part.
work. Yeah, having kids really drives the nail home. But even without that, it's like
Yeah,
really, 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 really tough. Like
yeah.
the people I hang out with here that are not in tech, I'm not even kidding. Like are people that like one guy I met because I was selling Nintendo games on Craigslist,
Hmm.
and we started like scoping deals together, and we'd like find this big lot and we'd go and buy them and split them up, and then we just kind of started hanging out. And like or like people from Vancouver that will just like drive across because I still know them from before, or
Yeah.
like that guy's friends, or like my neighbor who happens to be doing other things but he's like really into the same stuff, like stuff like that. And it's I don't know, it's just kind of funny. But like yeah, it's really hard for me to get like really good friends through work connections I've found, and now we have a
Yeah.
pandemic, so yeah.
Yeah, I've had a harder time with that switching into games.
Really?
Uh,
Then
I
film.
yeah, I found that in film, uh, I don't know. I think it's like one part because of there's that whole contractual style of employment where like everyone's only employed for the duration of the film, and then everyone goes to
Mm.
new studios and stuff. But I feel like a lot of people there were extroverts, and they all wanted to go to like movie theaters and go out to restaurants and stuff, and there was constantly like going out with people. Whereas I found
Yeah,
that, and it's hard to compare because maybe largely it's the fact that I'm a parent now and I can't
yeah,
go to movies and I can't go to restaurants and stuff unless I like arrange for babysitters and stuff, and it's harder to be spontaneous when you've got a family. Um,
yep.
but I found that like so many more people that I worked with were interested in just like at lunchtime, instead of going to a restaurant, just putting on their headphones and playing a game or watching Netflix.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have found it more difficult at all the companies I've been at. I'll make like one or two friends, but it's hard to even organize time to hang out after work these days. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
before the
Yeah.
pandemic, as these days. Now it's
Yeah.
just
Now
literally it doesn't happen.
it's just a zero. Yeah. 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 No, I know it sucks. Yeah. Everything sucks. It must be so rough. Like I'm at least at a stage in my life where like I kind of have friends that I've had for a long time. I have, whatever, like my life is fairly established for better or for worse. What's the word I'm looking for? I guess like routine, if you will. Like if you were like someone who's just graduating from high school right now, or just graduating from university, or like one of those times that I think it's kind of pivotal to get these connections and start really growing socially.
Yeah.
It must be so hard. Or even like I don't know, my daughter is young enough, and I think they're doing a good enough job with like all the pandemic measures and stuff that I mean she's still kind of making friends as well as she can, and so it's going pretty well. But like I was really worried that like it wouldn't go well because obviously like with her learning English as a second language, I figured like what I was looking forward to the most, honestly, with her going to kindergarten in grade 1 was like having more social time with people and establishing those
Hmm.
friendships.
Yeah.
And then it's like boom, pandemic, stay home and do these little math exercises. Like
Yeah.
no, no, right? But it's gone quite well considering. So I guess kids do adapt fast. Say that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's my kid is definitely better. Well, I was worried about it because during the pandemic, it seemed like he was getting so little exposure to other people that
Mm-hmm.
like we would go out in public and it'd be like he and I just like hanging out by ourselves. We'd play like
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon Go or something in like a parking lot, and then some other people would come by and they would see him because he's running around in circles like a crazy maniac, and they'd try to talk to him and he would just like hide behind me.
Oh, really? Wow.
So I was like starting to get nervous about him being able to make friends, but no, he went to we signed him up for the daycare even, so he goes to school and then he goes to daycare afterwards, and he
It's all good.
he's happy. He wants to stay there and play with people. Like there's another girl
Great.
that's the same age as him, and we I pick him up and her parents pick her up at like the last few minutes that they're allowed to be at the school.
Mm-hmm.
So they've already been like at school for what 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So they've been in class for 6 hours, and then they've been at daycare for another 3 hours, and then they don't want to go home. They want to just play in the parking lot at the school for another hour.
Hey, I mean, it's all very positive, awesome things. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we went to the like PTA, what do they call it, like the parent teacher
Yeah.
meetup or whatever, just to talk about how our daughter's doing. And one of the things I was totally shocked about, like she gave a bunch of feedback, mostly stuff I figured from stuff we see at home. She gets frustrated easy, but she's really good at this. And this is good. That needs work. Blah blah blah. But one of them was when the teacher asks questions, she raises her hand really often to answer them. And I was like, real, like I couldn't believe it. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, she's shy. Like, I can't imagine her like raising her hand to answer English questions. It just blows my mind. So, and the teacher was like, really? No, absolutely. So, I mean, I think, yeah, kids can surprise you. Um, I mean, that's a happy thing. I was like, great, okay. Yeah.
That actually
She
blew
likes
my.
English.
The opposite of that was true for my kid
Really?
when
Wow.
he was in pre-K. Like
Okay.
he's so hyper all the time. He's running around like crazy and like banging into the walls and knocking stuff over and throwing stuff, and it's exhausting for me. um, and I was so surprised when I went to my first parent teacher interview, and he just sat there like with his hands on his lap quietly and barely said anything, and he's just like so polite and quiet when he's at school. I'm just like, what is going on?
And we have the opposite, right? Not
Yeah,
quite the opposite, but pretty opposite. Yeah.
yeah,
That's funny. That's funny.
yeah. We're coming up on time here. How about you?
Indeed.
How about you tell me about all the games you played?
You're poking me with a hot stick.
I'm sorry, man. I shouldn't do that.
I mean, I really, it's been kind of a very busy period for me, but I've been just, I don't know, like every now and then I need a stress relief, coping mechanism or something. And so I've been playing just some Sega here and there, trying to sample the library. I mean, it's one of the bigger libraries I
Yeah,
haven't spent a ton of time with. I know you're all about like I'm going to beat this game and then I'm going to beat this game. I
Yeah,
find it really fun to like kind of just explore what's out there. This maybe goes back to me trying to balance being like deep on stuff versus shallow and wide.
yeah.
But Sega has some interesting stuff. There's some interesting weird like quirky simulations and stuff. So I can't even name anything. I've just been kind of exploring. Maybe I'll land on something and drill down.
I try to do both deep and wide.
Yeah,
I try to pick stuff from different eras and different systems, but I do try to
yeah,
like play those things in their entirety when I pick something up.
yeah. I
Uh,
used to do that. I'm kind of like if the game's fun, yeah, but I
hmm.
don't. I feel it has to be
Yeah,
really fun to justify it.
yeah. If I don't have fun, I abandon it pretty quick.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
tried giving the first Halo a shot recently,
Oh
and
wow, wow.
I put an hour and a half into that, and I'm probably not going to ever return to it.
When that was such a thing, like it was fun because I enjoy social gaming. So I mean, the game could be the worst game ever, and if it's like me and my friends sitting around laughing and chilling, it can be fun. And so Halo is one of those where it's like I'd never pop that in myself. I'm just
Well,
like, okay, it's okay.
I mean, I didn't do multiplayer. I was doing the campaign, right?
Yeah, but I mean, even I find that even for one player games, like I have some really good memories of like all of us getting together and like playing through all of like Resident Evil 1 or something.
Right.
Yeah, so like Halo, I don't they have a co-op campaign or something? I feel like I played that.
Probably. I don't know.
I think there's multiplayer and a co-op campaign and a single player campaign. I
I'm not
guess you didn't
sure.
like it.
Uh, no.
Excuse me.
Um, no.
Not your favorite. I don't hate
No.
it. I just not for me.
I don't like. It was okay. Like some of what I played was okay, but it's just like it's not. It doesn't feel like strategic to me in
Yeah.
a way that I'm used to with modern games. Like there's I don't know. I've been playing a lot of Last of Us Part Two, or like the Uncharted games, like Naughty Dog games and stuff. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of like taking cover and switching up your weapons and stuff in a way that I didn't. I found that with the enemies in that game, you can just kind of like dodge back and forth
Yeah.
and constantly do that, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I'm currently working through Castlevania Lords of Shadow on
Oh
PS3,
yeah, yeah. I think
and
you mentioned you were going to start that. Liking
yeah,
it?
I'm liking it a lot.
Cool.
I'm a little bit more than halfway through it right now, and it's surprisingly good. It's a little bit dated with how they handle the camera, but it's really solid.
Cool. Cool. Well, maybe next
I
time
did
we can talk about that.
sure.
Cool.
And on
Cool.
that note, we should probably wrap up.
All right. Yeah, I got to run.
All right, cheers.
Cool. Take care.